everybody, Armand here, Chi Skills. And today we have a podcast again and we're talking about energy, Chi.
Chi, yeah.
Some people say you cannot talk about it, but we're going to fill in half an hour with it. We don't care.
And I think it's very important that we don't just want to talk about the concept of Chi, but especially the experience.
Absolutely.
So,
and especially the shift that happens with people when they get in contact with their energy body, because it's huge. It sets up transformation. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of the most important things when you talk about transformation is this transformation when you go into Chi. So you do the first exercise that you teach people is building the ball.
Yeah, building the ball is an exercise to get in contact with the energy body and the feeling of energy. And it's so funny, when you teach this, it's the reactions you get from people if you go through this exercise, which can vary between like 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. You could also do a shorter version, but somewhere along these lines, and you take them on this journey, and then you sort of finish the exercise, and you're like, so okay, and what did you feel? And then you look at their faces, and there's like this wonder, and there's like, whoa, what happened? What was this? I never experienced this in my life, and things like that. That's what most people have, and that's the start of everything.
Yeah. It's like feeling yourself in a different way, your own energy field.
Totally. I think that's for a lot of people is their first true experience of themselves. I mean, consciously, right? I think when you're a child, unconsciously you have this experience, but a lot of people lose that. But yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome. So it's not only for health reasons we're training this, right? It's of course we do all these exercises with energy, but this shift is what most people are looking for, if they realize it or not, because they get to experience their life from a different perspective.
And that's important.
Yeah.
Because most people that come in, they're struggling with just that everything just comes in, and they don't have a way of keeping it out. It's just,
there's no guarding the gates, you could say, right? The doors are wide open, but what happens in our lives from a young age, we start contracting into our minds, into our feelings, and we sort of, with the doors open, and everything just happens and lands on our nervous system, etc., traumas, you name it, and then that happens, right? So we get this very, very small experience of the world, which becomes unconsciously threatening more. It's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. So the noise level goes up.
Yeah.
There's much thinking going on. People try to think themselves out of these situations. They talk about feelings, of course, but this feeling is always a reactivity on a situation, right?
Wow. And that's such an important one, reactivity to a situation. Because most of the time the situation is the situation. It's kind of a neutral thing.
Well, we have to be careful here, because there's gradations in what people can experience, right? Yeah. So there's extremes, of course, right? But also with these extremes, it would be great if people can move beyond what they experienced, right? So sort of get, these people come to us as well. People have very heavy experiences during their lifetime, and they want to move beyond that, right? They want to learn to let go of that. They want to make a shift. So when we move into energy, then the shift happens, because all of a sudden you create this anchor for people to have an experience from.
Yeah.
So it's like you put on a different lens by how you experience the world. So we have to lower the noise levels by coming into a feeling, but a different feeling than most people say or think what feelings actually are. Because those are reactivity feelings. And those are emotions, of course, which are perfectly fine and healthy to have, right?
Yeah.
But once they're stuck there and we cannot let go of them, we have to try to figure out our own way sort of to get rid of it. And it's like you're in a room full of flies, right? It's like, oh, they're attacking you constantly, right? And that's sort of what happens in a lot of people's heads. So you come in this small space, but when we go into a feeling, we move into a larger space. And that's where the shift happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the mind can open up and you come from a different perspective in the mind itself.
There is distance.
There's distance, exactly. And this
observing.
distance, and you come in a more observing state.
Yeah. And so, can you give an example of yourself, how it was before training and how it is now?
It's totally different now. But there's a huge relief as well, because something in me realized that there must be something else that I was experiencing before I started training. And even during the training in the beginning, because, of course, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like bang, bang. Also with building the ball, there's this shift, of course, but then we have to build upon that, right? So and people have to make that their normal state, you could say. Yeah. So, it was day and night. Right? It's day and night because I was in this reactivity, very sensitive guy. So what you find is there's more noise coming in you, and so you get cut off from reality. Yeah. Because it becomes your own reality there, which is not per se the other reality. And when you start training, you get this shift in reality.
Yeah, and I think you always take yourself with you, which means when you observe the world in a certain way, and especially if you're not conscious about it, then, for example, if you're always angry and you take this angry energy with you everywhere, and the world reacts on you in a certain way.
Sure.
And you experience like, oh, everybody's always this mean to me.
Yeah.
And this builds up on each other.
Of course, because you are in an energy field. So how you think, feel, and act has an effect in this energy field. So and it comes back to you as well. We call that karma, right? Yeah. That's what it is. So so I was bringing a lot of frustration or anger, all these things with me, and you get this mirrored back in reality. Yeah. Not all the time, right? But it was more like, it becomes like this, I don't know, it's like almost your default state. So that's what you're used to, and you think that's how the world is. Yeah,
sure. Because that is how you experience. It's kind of the glasses that you wear all the time.
Exactly.
And you don't know how to take them off. No. So that's when you go into a room, you bring yourself, you take this state with you, people react on that state. Yeah. And then sometimes you go away, and that's also away from where you just went. But then you don't know because you're not there anymore.
Right. So you bring this version of yourself around through your life, and that creates your life. It creates your decisions. It creates if people want to work with you, if they want to reach out to you, whatever. It's and that goes unconsciously as well. Yeah. Right? Because most people are pretty unconscious when you look at this level. Yeah. But it's all happening. Yeah. This energy is happening. Absolutely. Right? So when we move into the energy feeling, which is a totally different animal, we get to know a different part of ourselves. Yeah. We get like, meet the real Armand. Meet the real Didi. Yeah. Because there's more truth in this feeling than can ever be in your thinking. Wow. Because you come from an observing state, and that's completely different. Yeah, sure.
And I think, and even for us, because I was just, before this podcast, we were talking about that this weekend, we had a small party. Yeah. After 1.5 years not seeing many people in one place.
It was a strange experience, right?
Wow. Yeah. To be around like 25 people.
Yeah.
So not huge, but still.
Yeah.
And I felt like, wow, I fell back into my default state, as to say, and I felt quite nervous going in there, and I didn't know a lot of people there, so I was like, oh, I have to mingle again and talk to people that I don't know, and there came such a nervous feeling, and I felt like, okay, the first maybe 15 minutes, half an hour, I felt uncomfortable in this situation.
But you were well aware of it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing.
Yeah. I felt, but then after a while, I just stood somewhere and took a moment for myself and started breathing and, okay, be more centered, and I felt people reacting differently afterwards. And I could observe people in a different manner, not as being caught up, but seeing that most people in this situation had the same experience, probably. Because
all people have that experience.
Because it is kind of... It does something to you when you go into a room with people that you don't know.
Yeah, and it goes on a lot of levels, right? It's almost like on a primitive level. It's like meeting people can also be potentially dangerous. That sounds ridiculous maybe, but I think there's some truth in that, right?
So you need to feel safe first before opening up but allowing yourself to go through these stages and being with it made it easier for me to just be there.
Yeah, of course. You can make the shift consciously.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing, because situations, of course, will happen, right?
Yeah, sure.
Small situations, like more extreme situations. Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, this is just a nice kind of party situation, but it can be any situation.
But you're observing yourself, you're observing other people. It's like, okay, so when you have this shift coming from more, the feeling aspect. So what happens when people train longer is that they always have this connection with energy. I mean, it's sometimes it's more on the background, but it's still there. Once you open that feeling, it sort of, sticks to you. And that becomes like an anchor, sort of anchor for your awareness. So the doors are not that wide open that you can be pulled that way and then back into your box again, right? So there's always this percentage of awareness of a feeling. And I feel that I respond differently because of that. And that's not a conscious thing. It's more like it's happening by itself. Yeah. So I feel I don't contact certain people. Some people, I'm going to stand there. Yeah. I'm not going to stand in that spot because, there's a door behind my back or something, right? And that's, my first teacher was already talking about these things, also from a martial arts perspective, right? Be very aware when you move into a space. It's like, where do you stand? And so in the beginning, you're sort of thinking about that. But when you get more into the feeling, it's like you're automatically moving to certain places in a room, or standing there, or not talking with that person, and that actually happens. So, when you talk to people, it's different also, because you are so much more present with them.
Wow, yeah.
Because you're actually listening to them. Yeah. Because you're not in your own box with a lot of...
Yeah, it's less about what it should be and more being present in the situation and observing what's there.
So there's much more flow.
Yeah, and truly see the other as well. So you see...
Oh, and you feel the other.
Yeah, you feel...
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I think... even if they're aware of it or not, they're changing because of that.
Yeah, because when you're completely with another person, and I love that expression, holding space, that's something you feel, and then you feel more safe, and it feels more pleasant being with someone who has this space for you.
Yeah, because you could say you cannot hear someone else thinking, but you can feel someone else thinking.
Yeah.
Right? You can feel when they're present with you or not.
Yeah.
And if they're actually present, you become more present as well. Your noise levels will go down as well.
Yeah.
So that's why, when I had it here in this space, right, where I teach as well, and Didi does her thing as well, is that when people first come in, they're like, wow, it's so quiet here.
Yeah.
And we're pretty used to it. For us, it's now it's normal.
Yeah.
And it's not only because the neighborhood is pretty, quiet, but I think because there's just a lot of more stillness here.
Yeah.
And
a lot of training goes on here with, people are very conscious who come in, or not for the first time, but yeah.
Well, there's a very famous Taoistic text, which is actually called Cultivating Stillness.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing once you move into the energy body, is that you have your first steps into stillness. Yeah. And if you lose contact with that feeling, or you don't have that feeling, the noise levels are up. That's just what it is. Yeah. Like Eckhart Tolle says in his book, it's like if you lose contact with your body, right, you are already in trouble.
Yeah.
Because you are in the lower parts of your thinking and feeling. Yeah.
And in preparation of this podcast, we also talked about, we always talk about some books that we read, and what's it, the
Celestine Prophecy is called, I think. Yeah. That talks about that as well.
That talks about it. And I read it long time ago, and I was intrigued, but I couldn't really see what they were talking about at that time. And then we started the training, and then I was sometimes looking back to the book and thinking, that's what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
And that's so beautiful how in this book they also talk about their energy fields and how it blends, and how you sometimes think, okay, this person is too much, I need to protect my own space.
Yep.
So that's great.
And I think also, when you look at like the martial training, so a lot of people are like, this chi with this training, martial arts, and it's all blah, 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 blah. It's just a feeling, right? So when you do your partner training and you can connect with the feeling while touching another person, that's a pretty extreme, example of how it becomes easier in your life to keep connection with this feeling, right? But in a martial perspective, it gives you time because you're in the moment.
Yeah.
When you're connected to this feeling.
Yeah.
But if you're connected to your over there, you lose time.
Yeah.
Because you're not in the moment.
No.
And people who are connected to feeling can feel your intent.
Yeah.
Before you come out.
Yeah.
Because their time slows down.
And that's what's happening.
People are never in the moment if they're stuck in this box inside their head and trying to control from there. You're just not. And that's why you're feeling. Yeah. That's why you feel so bad, right? That's why you have this anxiousness and whatever, because everything, the doors are open and you're like in your box, like, right? Yeah. But once you move into the feelings, like, so what is actually the problem here? There might be stuff you have to solve. There might be stuff that you have to do, get the grip on your life, maybe organize some things, pay off this debt or whatever there's going on in your life, right? Lose this habit, get a new habit, whatever, right? But you move from a place, what people would call strength, right? You come from strength, from your power.
Yeah.
And that's a totally different ballgame. So if you ask me what's changed, and I'm going to ask you the same thing in a minute, from the before and after, it's a process. Yeah. Remember, I'm still in this process myself as well. That is the hugest shift. It's like you come from this place of authenticity. Yeah. You know who you are when you stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
And start feeling yourself and experience yourself from a higher level. So there's much more stillness now. Yeah. There's feeling, there's better choices. If there's something going on, it will be very short.
Yeah.
They have a shorter time span. It won't linger that much because, go back to the feeling.
Yeah.
So, how about you? What was the shift for you, right? You talked about it a little bit, but how does it feel for you now?
Yeah, and I think before I was maybe more anxious around just in a general state, and I would kind of pull myself back from living.
Okay.
So not living a full life. I would just go in kind of living the life that was set out for me from school, from my parents.
Yeah.
Going into that and doing what was expected, but not truly living my potential.
Yeah.
My full life. And starting this training and getting more into my own energy made me make radical choices for myself.
Yeah.
And absolutely in situations, I mean, it starts small with
baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah. Choosing, for example, for me, starting to eat a proper breakfast every day that was good for me and just stick to it. It's small things like that, but really choosing for myself to make a difference. And then,
to even make a conscious decision, right?
Make a conscious decision.
It's huge.
And this really had a huge impact on my life, because that made a choice to stop the birth control pill, which was such a thing that society kind of put that upon you.
It's what you do, right?
It's what you do. It's
you don't think about
your
it.
Doctor,
it's what you do.
Your mother. Well, we made a podcast on that, so don't have to repeat that. And then you think, okay, where am I in my life?
Yeah.
Why am I doing all those things that I don't really care about? I'm good at it. I was working in an office and doing making all these papers for everyone that nobody read, and it didn't really make me happy. And so I started I went back to school, and I did 4 years of studying,
implemented in our
everything,
lives, right? Yep.
And did lots of courses, met different people, reacting different in situations with friends, work, and I got more powerful. I'm more myself. I feel so much more alive now, and I'm doing so many things that I love these days.
Exactly, and that becomes also like a new normal for you, right?
Yeah.
That's a different plateau where you're functioning from.
And these little steps, they build upon each other, upon each other,
Yeah.
and you see that the changes are much faster now than when I started out.
Yeah, it goes like that, right? It goes, and it's just incredible.
Yeah.
How you've changed is unbelievable.
Yeah. And it started with just experiencing the chi and training and building more chi by, for me, food was a really important thing.
And also another thing I see you do is that you make very clear intentions for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Every morning you sit
day.
down, it's like, what do I want from this day? Yeah. and I ask for ... right?
Yeah.
And it happens, right? Yeah. You're so much, and I think the word alignment here,
yeah.
If we move into this feeling, coming from this feeling, we start aligning with everything.
Yeah, and also being so much more aware of what wants to come through. Yeah. And my lineage, what are my talents, as to say? Yeah. What can
your gifts?
My gifts. Yeah. And what can I do with it? And allowing that and feeling that the world needs it.
Well, you create, going back, moving from the box, right? The conditioned box into a larger feeling gives literally space, right? Yeah. So you give space for your gifts.
Yeah.
And it will automatically happen because you sort of, you pull out the stagnation, right? Like stagnation there, stagnation there. Yeah. Because sometimes, of course, in this training, we're also looking inside the box.
Yeah.
You have to, because, you get this distance, you have this feeling, there's less noise, and you come in this observing stage, you can see what's inside the box, right? So you can, okay, what's this? Without the drama, it's like, okay, what is this? Can I change this? Can I transform this? Yes, you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I saw that happening, right? I saw it already happening in you before you started this training, when I first met you. 19 years ago. Today. Yeah.
Special
I looked into her eyes and I could see it.
Yeah. I think when you kind of grow up, when you're a child, you have it and you think the world is at your feet and you're wow and growing, experiencing, and then there's this moment in time when you want to be a grown-up. Who wants to do that? But then you're a grown-up and then everything kind of starts to fall apart.
Yeah, because what happens with it contracts, becomes smaller, it builds up, and nothing's released or...
No, and then there's this time and place when things don't go well and you think, I need to change. And that's when this is started. I just couldn't go on like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then it's inevitable that you're gonna... But it was already planned.
Oh, yeah. And that's great.
Yeah,
it feels like aligned and very as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And wow, we've only just begun. That's how it feels, right?
Yeah.
So I hope for people that you understand now that this feeling is the start of something much larger than just waving the arms. And, there's of course, there's all these health exercises, all these things, right? But they all add up to a spiritual path.
Yeah.
And that's what it really is, right? So this feeling shift is opening a door for the spiritual path.
Going into the internal.
Yeah. And going into the internal, really. Yeah.
Wow, that was beautiful.
It was a beautiful podcast, I think. Yeah, I hope you liked it as well.
Yeah, and like and subscribe.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be back.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.